Hello and welcome to JJM Leadership Conversation. My name is Joseph Mudau, your host for today. At JJM Leadership Conversation, we aim at empowering you with a message of hope and also changing the leadership narrative, because we believe that all of us are leaders. You don't have to be occupying a particular position for you to be a leader, but you have to just solve those little problems in your space. I don't know what are your challenges where you are, but the minute you solve those challenges, you become a leader in your society. Coming up, I've got a guest that is going to be talking to me today, and it's a very interesting guest that I've known for quite some time. She is a businesswoman at her own right, a pioneer, and also an educator. Her name is Nomvula, and she will be joining with us today. And Nomvula, ngicela ukuthi ubulise ababukele ekhaya ngesixhosa ngoku ngesixhosa thetha ngesixhosa ngoku.
Thank you, Joe. Tibulisa bonke ababukele ekhaya.
Ngesixhosa.
Greetings to all the viewers at home. I'm very happy to be here today.
And wonderful. So Nomvula, she's joining with me today, and I want you to participate into this conversation. If there is something that you want to share, with your colleagues, your network, I want you to make sure that you write comments on the comment box on the bottom, and also tag one or two people that you believe they will benefit out of this conversation. Also share this message of hope with others. So today we are talking to Nomvula Rakolote, who is going to be talking to us, sharing her story, and also sharing her career journey. Nomvula, I want you to just introduce yourself in terms of who you are and the stuff that you do as a business person, a pioneer, and also an educator. I love this one, you educate, because in actual fact, that's where your career started.
Thank you, Joe. I'm Nomvula Rakolote, as already introduced. I am currently a leadership and performance coach. That is what I do in terms of my business, and obviously ascribing to two aspects when it comes to leadership, which is the John Maxwell Leadership Program, and also the Ken Blanket Leadership Program, because I believe that as a leader, you have to be balanced both emotionally and of course spiritually.
Yes.
Because if you have developed yourself spiritually, then you've got quite a great capacity to care, because that is what leaders need to do. So I think I am a servant leader.
Okay.
Yes.
So one of the things that I found it to be very interesting when we talk, and what I know about Nomvula as well, is that you do a lot of things, and I wonder how you manage them. You always do a lot of things. So, but what caught my attention at the other time when we were discussing, we just had a casual conversation. You told me that you started as a teacher. That's where you started, right?
Yes.
Okay, can you just tell me about your journey as a teacher and where you are today? Are you misaligned from your journey as a teacher, or what you are doing today, one with the other has a relationship?
First of all, I think I must indicate that whatever it is that you do in life, nothing is a waste.
Okay.
It is always a stepping stone towards where you need to go in future. As you've well said, I am an educator by profession, but I'm not misaligned. I would actually say that I've climbed the corporate ladder through divine intervention.
Okay.
I started as an educator. For 3 years, I was a lecturer. But from there, it went to various industries. I've been in the heritage industry, I've been in arts and culture, and now I'm in construction. And the reason why I say I've climbed the corporate ladder through divine intervention is because I have been in these industries without having the core qualification for that particular industry.
Correct.
For example, I was a CEO in a construction statutory body for about 9 years, and now I'm a consulting CEO still within the construction industry. So there is no misalignment, but because these things always have their own way of working out, I am back in the classroom. I am doing a leadership program with grade 8 and 9. So I guess the educator in me has never left.
Wow. It's an interesting one. And I just want to maybe look at you spoke about working in the construction industry. And I want to just check, what are the challenges that you experience on day to day, in particular, where you are dealing with the people that, construction industry, it's more male dominated. And it is also, with our country, with so many challenges that we have, it is also a white-dominated environment. How are you maneuvering into that space?
What I would primarily say is that, yes, there are challenges, but for some reason, it has never affected me in any negative way. In fact, I was able to influence things for the better in some of the sectors. But for me, the biggest thing which I think has made me to cope in these industries is simply because when it comes to leadership, you must have an understanding. First of all, it is very important to lead yourself before you can lead another and before you can even lead an organization. So irrespective of challenges, they are there in any industries, not only in the construction. But the fundamental point that is important is that if you have that understanding of leading the self, then you shouldn't have any of the challenges. Most of what I have seen in my career within the construction industry, actually, I think even from the feedback that I've had, I've done extremely well. But I think the most important thing, in fact, was that is because of innovation, is because of creativity. Because when you enter an industry and having to lead experts, they are experts, they are the technical people.
Correct.
So you kind of look at the low-hanging fruits, at those things that matter to the success of whatever program it is that they are doing. So you become that function, not necessarily a support function, but you become the one that gives the strategic direction.
Correct.
Because experts have got that way of being fixated in their field of expertise. So from a strategic point of view, I think that is what has then made it easy for success. I have not had any issues for over 14 years in the construction industry.
Wow. I want you to talk to me a little bit, Nomvula, about your, and I think I missed it when I was doing my introduction earlier on, about your professorship. In actual fact, you're Professor Nomvula Rakolote. Talk to me about your professorship. How does it work?
First of all, I think for me that was the highest turning point in my career.
Okay.
To be recognized as an adjunct professor, that is what they call it, adjunct professor, it means you are being recognized as the authority in the field. So I got that recognition in the construction sector. Mind you, I don't have any technical qualification in the construction sector.
Correct.
But what was important is the hard work that I've put over the years when I was working for these institutions. And I was never ever happy to say, now I know everything. I have continually, on a daily basis, made sure that I learn everything that there is to learn. The technical aspects are for the technical people.
Exactly.
But from a strategic point of view, as a leader, you must continually refine your skills. Don't be satisfied about your achievement of the past years.
Okay.
And all the work that I have done that has accumulated over these years then made one of the universities to give me that recognition.
Okay.
I must also add to say one of my functions actually was to do program accreditation at 13 institutions of higher learning in South Africa that offer project and construction management. So I actually also became part of the team. Actually, I was leading the team that was doing the accreditation of programs within the construction sector. So the biggest thing is to continually learn. Don't be satisfied with what you know. The biggest success for me has been staying current.
Okay.
What I did last week no longer matters. What matters is what I'm doing today and what I'm planning for tomorrow. So that is what has made me survive in the industry and actually excel.
Wow. I love it. And I'm hoping that our viewers at home, there is something that you're learning and you are also picking up your takeaways from this conversation. You have heard as well from my guest here who highlighted that you need to stay afloat, you need to stay relevant into what is happening in the industry. Don't sit down and say, I'm an expert only in this field, but you must also be willing to learn other aspects in the industry. We're going to be going into a break right now, and I'm hoping that you are learning something. Continue to write on that comment box on the bottom, type your takeaways, and also share or tag this video with someone that you believe will also benefit from this material.
Christ Media TV app is now available at Google Play Store. Download it today and get the latest updates and live broadcasts on your phone. The app's features also enable you to connect with our Facebook page, access frequently asked questions, and read the Bible online. Christ Media TV app, now available for free at Google Play Store. Download it now and stay connected.
Welcome back to JJM Leadership Conversation. My name is Joe, your host. I'm still continuing with my conversation with my guest here, Nomvula Rakolote. In actual fact, this name is very close to the Nomvulas of our politics, and I'm just reminded of something special now. But let's not even go there, says Nomvula. But I want to just look at, the day-to-day challenges in your work environment. Of course, you spoke that you were a CEO for almost 10 years in one organization. That continue to thrive even in your absence. But I want us to look at now you've gone solo. You are now running your own business. In the past, you were running somebody's business. You do not, maybe you had to worry about where the money is coming from, but now you are driving your own ship. You need to make sure that the rent is paid. You need to make sure that the employees are paid, or whosoever is working with you, your suppliers are paid, other service providers are paid. What are the daily challenges that you experience in your work?
I would say in terms of challenges, now that one is on your own, you're so very careful of the people that you are going to work with. Mm-hmm. The partnerships that you form becomes the most important. Mm-hmm. But personally for me now is that I am consulting CEO and I'm still doing other programs as well. Okay. So the biggest for me has been transitioning. I think it's a stage that I have passed. Okay. But when I started on my own, that was 2018, it was transitioning from being an employee, for the rest of my life, of my working life, career, and then transitioning into becoming a consultant. It took quite a while, and the fact that I'm consulting CEO didn't make it easy. But now one of the challenges then had to be having that understanding to say now you are solo. For example, there's things that you wouldn't just do for the love of it the way that you would have done. So the biggest thing that I had to overcome was how I am using my time. Okay. Because if you are consulting, in as much as you've agreed on certain hours, because I'm a hard worker, I go all out, and which I don't mind, but I had to balance now between different programs, which I had to lead from a strategic point of view. So that has been one of the things that I had to overcome, that transitioning. And of course, having to look at the bills, having to have a closer look at the finances yourself. There's no longer CFO and all of those things. Now you've got a service provider, you've got an accountant that is doing your work for you. So managing or leading an accountant who is a service provider to you is different from just being the CFO. So it is all of those things that you still need to keep your tabs on everything, because you are building the business, you are building a vision, and you want to build a legacy. So those were some of the issues that I was facing, on a day-to-day basis, but it is getting better. Just when I thought I have it covered, then we had COVID. Yeah. Now again, I had to learn and unlearn new skills in terms of the working environment that has changed.
One thing that I love, Nomvula, and I want to reflect on is the issue that you have got a white PA. And in actual fact, I like your relationship because I just forgot her name, but
it's Lee.
It's Lee, right? Yeah. I love your relationship because most of the time when I needed to meet with you, somehow I will receive a call. I find it, very strange because most of my friends, my colleagues, I don't need to go through the secretary. But somehow you were able to manage this relationship when you were a CEO in the other organization for about 10 years, and now you still continue to work together. And one thing that I also found it to be very exciting about your relationship with your PA is that she does the most, and if you have to check on your week, of course she will check on your diary. If you need to check, you have to visit the kids or you have to go to the doctor and all that. How are you managing, and how did you get it right for me in such a way that you continue with this relationship even post that professional relationship that you had in the previous organization that you worked for?
I must say now, on evaluation, it's probably got to do with how I was working as a leader, which is feedback from her. Okay. Because from her side, she is of the opinion that I'm compassionate, I have compassion. I'm compassionate. I want to say,
Compassionate, okay.
yes, and she feels that I mentor people. I've got the patience, and according to her, she says I've got a lovely personality.
Okay.
But you also know that, when we are under pressure, work has to be done. We have worked together now for almost 7 years. She practically organizes my life.
Okay.
She calls me to order when I need to be called to order.
Okay.
But the most amazing thing is that she left the organization before me.
Okay.
And she is
So you did not say she must resign.
No.
So she left before you.
Yes, she
Okay.
left before me. She is now an agent. She's selling houses. She's into the property sector.
Okay.
But what we've agreed on is that, you'll be my PA for life, because she has spoiled me. She practically knows everything.
Okay.
Whether it is doctor's appointments, children's birthday, and all the documentation, the documentation that I need to have. Even from actually, she's even more an advisor to me, advisory level, where she's very conscious on having to have your life in order, from having a will and having this. So there's quite a lot that I've actually learned from her as well. And she understands me. She understands me, and she also knows how to pace my appointments, how to pace the works. So it's beyond now even just saying a PA. We are practically family friends. I know her family.
Okay.
Her family knows me, and I don't even think that is that PA kind of a relationship, because we just work to work together very well. And I'm not stingy with her, because she is so good that I actually do recommend her to do work for other people.
Wow.
What she's doing now, amongst others, she's a virtual assistant. So she's now a virtual assistant for me, and she has worked for 2-3 organizations where I've actually recommended her. We just have that relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beyond being a PA now.
I love it, and I don't know, and for me, I think this is a very new narrative for the rest of us. You will see that, especially the black and white, we've got these dynamics in our country, where we find it very, very difficult to the diversity and inclusion for us to embrace it without difficulty. And maybe on that point, I want you to just talk to me a little bit about the issue of diversity and inclusion in our, it could be in companies, and it could also be us interacting with each other, with our neighbors. I mean, this past week we had a lot of interesting things that came through because of one of the advert from one of the retailer out there, or an outlet. So it was a big issue. It was a big issue in such a way that politicians were also involved in trying to deal with the issue of diversity in our country. You will know that even our past history, we're coming from a very difficult history where color, race, it's also a biggest issue in our space. How do you manage that? And how do your peers look at you when you've got this white friend, this white PA, that is also integrated within
the family
setup?
structure?
Yes.
To an extent that my children even call her,
Yes.
whether they want a flight or any other
Correct.
thing, whether they want food.
Correct.
When I really look at it, is that maybe I was never very conscious. I've always looked beyond color, which is what makes me to even be able to stay in the construction industry for that long. But now that you are actually asking me, I'm really thinking about what you're saying. Because, one of the other things that Lee did was to get an au pair for my daughter.
Okay.
And the au pair that she got is somebody that we also became family with, Angie. Angie was an au pair for my daughter.
Okay.
And even then, it was really never an issue. They come to my home, they cook. In fact, Angie was the one that was even teaching my daughter to cook and all of that. But now that you are saying it, actually, when I think hard about it, is that when I grew up, my grandmother who brought me up was a domestic worker.
Okay.
So most of the time, I was Kodidoxing.
Okay.
I grew up there, and most of the time I grew up with the children there. And because I was just a child, I remember there's this one.
But Nomvula, I'm thinking now here. The other thing I think that works to your advantage is the language, right?
Afrikaans.
Yeah, you have got a very good command of Afrikaans. And I think what we will do, when you wrap up, you're going to wrap up in Afrikaans.
Yes, it is the command of the language. It is
Okay.
also the way that I was brought up. I did grow up mostly in those environments where my grandmother was a domestic worker where I actually called the madam at the time Sisi, because what I knew as a child was Umdala Sisi.
Okay.
But the biggest thing as well is the language. In terms of the language, when I started my career as an educator, the first 3 years I was at the Northern Cape Technical College,
Okay.
teaching in both English and Afrikaans, because the college itself had, a diverse group of students.
Okay.
So it could be the language as well, but also just being from Kimberly, we're quite multilingual.
Okay, so do you know why I know Kimberly? I've known Kimberly just because of because it's a mining town, and we've got beautiful stories to tell from my hometown in Venda. That if a guy wanted to, the first place to look for a work, it was in Kimberly, and in those days they had to walk on their feet going to Kimberly. I don't even want to imagine how they made it, but they used to walk to Kimberly, we are told, so that they can be able to get some work there in the mining area. So we're going to a break, and coming back, we are going to conclude our conversation with Nomvula as we continue to discuss and look at your life and also look at your flourishing career. Going to a break.
The Monroe Press presents Black Sun, White Mother, written by Charlie Masara and Gail Vermeulen. In this book, Charlie Masara and Gail Vermeulen converted their personal experiences into an excellent work. This book will challenge and motivate you to rise to the occasion in internalizing diversity in your life and work. The reader is taken on a unique journey to unlocking the potential of diversity in the workplace, from the genesis of diversity in Chapter 1 right through to embracing diversity in Chapter 22. The strength of the book lies in its practical wisdom, expressed in succinct yet profound pieces of insight and advice. Order your personal copy online at monroeglobal.com or any leading bookstore near you.
And welcome back to JJM Leadership Conversation. I hope that you are enjoying my light moments here with Nomvula as we continue to inspire you with a message of hope. If there are takeaways from this conversation, I want you to write on the comment box there and just write, "This is my takeaway for today." And if you believe that there is someone that can benefit out of this conversation, please make sure that you tag them. Don't be jealous. Make sure that you tag them to know the stuff that we have been discussing about here. I want to pick up my conversation once more with Nomvula here, looking at the issue of diversity. Our country is also coming from a very difficult past. How are you managing this diversity, especially having to have Lee being integrated in your family setup, and you are also integrated in your family setup? How are you managing this diversity?
I think one of the things I must indicate, Joe, is that what for me was important, or what I have learned over time, is that when you are a leader, really there's certain fundamentals that you have to look at. First of all, I believe that you don't have to rely on your position.
Correct.
So every day you must know that you must recommit at being a leader, making sure that you serve the people, irrespective of their gender and their race and their beliefs. That is one of the things. And all my working career, I have been in very diverse backgrounds in terms of work. As I've indicated, when I started as an educator, I was at the Northern Cape Technical College, where I was a lecturer for both for students in all different races. I even worked in the Western Cape for that matter. So that is the important thing. But the second thing is that don't, when you look at people, look beyond what you see.
Okay.
Look and believe into their potential.
Okay.
Because the moment you look at them and their potential, you'll be able to better serve them. And in that way, then you are able to help them realize their potential.
Exactly.
Irrespective. And I think one of the things is that I'm very authentic. What you see is what you get.
Okay.
And at work, people were able to know that today is a good thing to ask for something, and or it's not, irrespective of who they are. And the other thing as well is to make sure that you see things from other people's perspectives. Because now if you try to understand their perspective, then you just go beyond to what they are expressing. So as a leader, you must have that capacity, to care. It shouldn't always be about the task at hand, but it needs to be also about the people. And for me, in that way, issues of diversity, issues of inclusion will come in there, because you have to have that understanding. But also be able to openly ask, like I would ask Lee and say, Lee, for example, with my culture, this is what we do.
Yes.
So why would you expect me to do that? And so it is that continuous understanding. And the biggest thing that for me will always surpass issues of inclusivity and diversity, it should always be about the impact and the value that you add in people's life, irrespective of race, gender, and so on. For me, those are the most important things when it comes to a leader. And I'm quoting this because it has been some of the leadership principles that I have been practicing as taught by John Maxwell, to say on a daily basis, you need to make that conscious decision. Yes, there's times that you are just human, you have your views, you have your feelings.
Yes.
But when it comes to leadership, we are seeing most of the companies now would take out their leaders on courses of emotional intelligence. It is all well, but my point is that emotional intelligence, when it is coupled with spiritual intelligence, that is what will be able to win all of these battles of inclusivity and diversity. And and in order to be able to do all of that, you must know yourself. You must be able to first lead yourself before you can lead another, and before you can even lead the organization. So there's a lot that goes into leadership. As you've rightly said at the beginning, is that leadership is not about the badge or the title of an organization.
Yes.
It first starts with you. So for me, those are some of the aspects that one can use to overcome. And that is a coaching program that I am doing, the leadership and performance coaching, based on two schools of thought, being the John Maxwell, and I'm doing it with a Ken Blanchard, because Ken Blanchard has a model that says lead like Jesus. So for me, it gives me the balance between emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence.
Wow. I love it. I love it. And I think for me, it is important that in a country that is so, so divided, we need also to bring each other, and in order for us that we can also embrace one another. Because anyway, whatever we are trying to do in our country, we are also building a nation. We are also building a country that will be an inheritance to our children. Nomvula, you will know that in JJM Leadership Conversation, we are very, we are very much particular. We are very much interested in the leadership aspects, and I'm happy that along the way, during our discussions, you reflected on a lot of elements around leadership. But I want us to conclude looking at your leadership philosophy, what drives you, and what has influenced you as a leader to be who you are today.
What has influenced me as a leader is most definitely my grandmother, because that is where I got my first leadership lessons. And as you rightly said, leadership is not necessarily about the organizational role. There is what you call life role leadership. So most of the time, if you ask somebody to say, who's your role model? We are likely to say mother, father, uncle, and so on, because it means our life role leaders are the ones that have the most impact. So for me, that is where it comes from. And then my philosophy is servant leadership. You must know that as a leader, you are there to serve. Wow. The better you serve the people that you are leading, the more it will be easy for cooperation and mutual benefits. And what drives me, it's a quote that I've learned when I was in Standard 5. I'm giving away my age now.
Standard 5, right?
Standard 5. I was not in grade.
Which is grade what?
grade 7.
Grade 7. Okay.
Which is grade 7. And you still see that even in my signature. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, go where there is no path and leave a trail. And if you look into my career, that is exactly what has characterized every working place I've been. It doesn't matter whether I've been there 2003, 1998. There is always a program up until today that they will tell you that this was done when Nomvula was here. This is what Nomvula started. So it's go where there is a path, go where there is no path and leave a trail. And of course, these are things that I cannot do on my own. Hence, I have worked in these different industries without having the technical knowledge. So I believe that is God-given confidence, is God-given intelligence, which we never want to acknowledge. And always just wisdom. seeking wisdom at all times in what you do, because as leaders, there are so many challenges. You cannot do it alone. That is my view. It has worked for me. I don't know what has worked for others.
Wow, I love it. As we conclude now, Nomvula, please just tell us where we can get hold of you. If somebody wants your services and they want to talk to you, where should we go? Either on social media, do you have a website? What are we supposed to do to get hold of you?
My website, I am Nomvula Rakolote. On LinkedIn, I am Nomvula Rakolote. And in terms of my website is www.advancementsolutions.co.za. And my email is nomvula@advancementsolutions.co.za.
Wow. So anyway, you have heard for yourself, and if you want to know a lot, we are also just going to post those contacts at the bottom of this video, and we are hoping that you are going to interact with Nomvula. And before you go, Nomvula, what do you want to say in conclusion? Can you say goodbye to our viewers, but in Afrikaans?
I think I forgot Afrikaans.
Say something, I know. Just say something, it's goodbye, you know.
Ek het my tyd met julle geniet. Ek hoop julle het alles gehoor wat ek gesê het, en ek hoop dit sal 'n les wees vir jou en jou lewe vorentoe. Mag die Here jou seën. Baie dankie.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Nomvula Rakolote for you. I'm just going to watch on those subtitles because I had nothing on what she said. And thank you so very much for watching this episode. My name is Joseph Mudau, and we are always available to talk to you. Just keep on inboxing us and write on the comment box. We will be ready to talk to you. God bless you, and meet you at the top where you belong.